Her message came in mid-morning, clipped and neat. I should have chosen better. No context. No follow-up. I didn't answer. I let the screen go dark and set the phone face down on my desk. She came home early that evening, humming something off-key. New chain around her neck, a small elm leaf and brushed metal sitting at her collarbone. I hadn't seen it before. She touched it with 2 fingers when she saw me looking, then shifted her gaze past me like I wasn't there. I didn't ask where it came from. I sharpened a knife, chopped an onion, and nodded toward the pan when it was hot. Her phone kept lighting up on the counter. Short vibrations. She started laughing at nothing, a little late each time. When I handed her a plate, she flipped the phone face down, the elm leaf catching light. She asked about my day as if reading a script. I gave her the answers she already knew. We ate at the table. She pushed food around more than she ate it. The leaf pendant swung when she leaned forward and stopped when she noticed it moving. She tucked it under her shirt and stared at the clock like she had somewhere else to be. I poured water. She took a sip, thanked me, and asked if I had plans for the weekend. I said I did. I didn't explain. After she went to the living room, I wiped the counter and loaded the dishwasher. Routine keeps people honest. It also shows breaks faster. A small box from a boutique sat in the recycling, brand printed in foil. The receipt wasn't there. I flattened the cardboard and took out the trash without comment. We watched a show together, or pretended to. She laughed in the right places, checked her phone during the quiet ones. When the credits rolled, she said she was tired and started turning off lights. In bed, she lay on her side. The chain left a thin line against her neck. I turned my alarm down 2 clicks and set it anyway. The next morning, I made coffee and reviewed the weekend list. Oil change, groceries, a run to the hardware store. Nothing complicated. She came into the kitchen in a sweater I didn't recognize and kissed my cheek like an obligation. The elm leaf hung over the knit, centered and deliberate. Big weekend? She asked. I said it would be simple. She nodded like relief looked better than effort. At work, I saw her message again when I checked my phone. I didn't overthink it. I moved it to a folder and kept going. People tell you who they are with small choices. I let it sit and paid 3 invoices ahead of schedule. Predictability has its own kind of leverage. That night she said she might step out on Saturday, a friend's thing. She kept it vague, as if details were heavy. I told her to text me the time so I could plan the errands around it. She agreed, then didn't follow through. The elm leaf lay against her sternum when she stood at the sink, water running longer than it needed. I dried my hands and walked past her without brushing against her shoulder. She noticed the space and said nothing. I started watching the clock, not her face. Messages came and went. New laughter. Old silence. She adjusted the pendant like it belonged there, like it always had. I let the performance play out and didn't offer notes. She wanted a cue. I didn't give one. By Friday, she sent another half-thought about being stuck, about needing better air. I responded with a thumbs up and moved my Saturday appointments an hour earlier. No fights. No speeches. Just a schedule that no longer waited for her explanations. She spent that evening folding laundry that didn't need folding. She kept glancing toward the doorway, then back to her phone. The house felt normal because I made it normal. I collected the hangers, put them in the closet, and closed the door softly behind me. She heard it. She looked down at the pendant and tapped the leaf once with her nail, as if confirming it was still there. I didn't ask who gave it to her, or why she chose an elm. Names would come later. Meaning would come last. For now, I watched where attention went when she thought no one was looking. People tell on themselves when the room gets quiet. Saturday arrived on time. Lists, keys, wallet out the door. I left her with the hum of the fridge and the glow of the phone. If she wanted me to pry, she'd be waiting a while. Normal doesn't need rehearsals. Lies do. By Sunday she was up before dawn, moving carefully like noise cost money. Running shoes. Fresh lip balm. Phone face down on the counter, screen lighting up on its own schedule. The elm leaf pendant sat high on her collarbone, catching the thin kitchen light. She didn't look at me when she tightened the laces. I didn't fill the air. She started calling everything. Last minute coffee, last minute work drinks, last minute errands across town. The word did heavy lifting for her. I let it. People who rely on last minute are planning something. They just don't say it out loud. I invited her to dinner on Tuesday, a simple place 2 blocks away. She touched the pendant, hedged, then offered a vague meeting that might run long. Might. She left the house early anyway, dressed for a different room than the one she described. I watched the door close. I didn't follow. That night I opened the bank app. None of this needed a detective. It needed attention. Rideshares looping through neighborhoods she never mentioned. A boutique called Leaf and Harbor that hadn't seen my card before last week. 2 charges, small enough to look harmless. A wine bar near the river, 11:58 p.m., while our pantry sat full of untouched groceries. Numbers don't mislead. I set alerts. Every purchase over 10 rang a bell on my phone. Every transfer did too. I exported statements and filtered by location. She'd stopped using the gym we paid for and started using one across town for day passes and cash. Cash only makes sense when you don't want a record. I didn't change the budget yet. I just watched where it strained. The elm leaf matched the boutique name too neatly to be a coincidence. She wore it every day now, thumb flicking the edge when she thought. She caught me notice it once. She knew I noticed. She tucked the chain inside her sweater like it needed shelter. Our friends checked in more often. Not about us. About logistics. Group plans that didn't require my answer. Little flurries of messages that paused when I entered a room. I met 2 of them for coffee. They were cheerful and careful in equal measure. "How are things?" Wide eyes. Short sips. I answered with one-word responses and let the silences land where they would. The barista was louder than we were. People adjust themselves around quiet. Back at home, small contradictions multiplied. She told me she needed early mornings for clarity, but her shoes were barely scuffed. She said she'd be in a workshop, then brought home a takeout container from a place that closes at 6. I stopped offering to pick her up. I stopped asking for times. Absence is a clearer mirror than a conversation. I moved autopay for the mortgage to my account. No announcement. The electric bill joined it. Groceries shifted to my card alone. If there was a storm coming, the basics would stay dry. That wasn't retaliation. That was maintenance. Her phone learned new habits. Always on silent. Always upside down. When it did buzz, she'd hold it close to her body, angle it away without looking obvious. Practice showed. So did the smile that didn't reach her eyes. Distance doesn't need a scene. It just stops including you. The alerts worked. Thursday, 6:43 p.m. A salon 2 zip codes over. Friday, 1:14 a.m. A rideshare back from a street with 2 late bars and 1 small hotel. Saturday, 9:09 a.m. Leaf and Harbor again. Small purchases create large patterns. I noted each line and moved on. She mentioned a friend I supposedly knew well and used the name as a passkey. I nodded and took the trash out. On the way back in, I checked the shared calendar. Empty. Her version of our life didn't bother to sync. That night I watched her fold laundry that didn't need folding. The pendant tapped against her ring as she sorted. Tap, tap, tap. She glanced at me, as if measuring what I knew. I kept my hands in my pockets and leaned on the doorframe. Some truths don't need questions. She went out again. I stayed home and paid the water bill 2 months ahead. The house hummed. The alerts pinged on schedule. I didn't chase anything. I let the numbers walk to me. By the end of the week, her story had more moving parts than our cars. I put my phone face down and slept. The pattern was awake enough for both of us. She started guarding her phone like it was fragile. Screen always down. Volume off. She stood by the sink after dinner and pretended to scroll a recipe. The pendant touched the glass and left a faint smudge I wiped later without comment. That night, she stepped into the hallway to call a friend. The door didn't close all the way. I heard a laugh turn small to fit the space and a name folded into it. Mark. One word, placed like a coin on a table. I didn't move. I let the air carry it to me. She came back in and didn't meet my eyes. Her keys were already in her hand. "It's a girl's thing," she said, already halfway to the door. I nodded once. She waited for a follow-up that didn't arrive. Silence has a weight. She felt it and left anyway. When the lock clicked, I sat down at the desk. Bank portal, joined account, the usual path. Rideshare to a cross street we never use. Charges at a place dressed up as a bar, but the receipt notes said, tasting. 2 coffees after midnight and a parking fee at a boutique hotel, the kind with a lobby you photograph. All of it wrapped in the time she said was trivia and dessert. I set another alert for any new merchant tags. Lowered the card limit by a notch. Paid the mortgage principal like it was nothing. Money works best when it's quiet. She came home past 1. The elm leaf lay backward against her collarbone, turned as if it wanted to face the wall. She kicked off her shoes and made noise to prove something. I stayed on the couch and let a commercial finish. She watched the side of my face. I didn't give her more. In the morning, I made coffee and didn't bring her one. I put the mail at her spot and slid the credit card statement under mine. She noticed the missing foam by the second sip of mine. She watched my hands, waiting for a tremor that never landed. She put on the pendant. She left. Days turned. Work filled the hours that used to belong to us. At lunch, I opened a browser and a soft web of social pages. Her friends weren't careful. Someone posted a photo from the best Tuesday. My wife at the center, head tilted toward a man I didn't recognize. He wasn't tagged. The caption mentioned a name by accident. Thanks, Mark, for picking the spot. People reveal themselves in the comments they forget to lock. I clicked. The man's profile held a public photo from years ago. Same eyes, same lazy grin, same watch. The Tuesday shot had the pendant catching light, its edge mirrored in the glass behind them. Proof doesn't need to shout, it only needs a timestamp. I saved the image and sent it to my own email, then to a folder labeled with a date. The file sat there, simple and patient. She texted around 5 to say she would be late, team drinks, board games, the same stacked alibi. I replied with a period. Nothing more. She would read the dot as a wall. She should. I took a pen and wrote the name on a sticky note. Mark. No last name needed yet. It went under my keyboard, turned so only a corner showed. I was not in a hurry. I set a new rule on the account. Any transaction within 3 blocks of that hotel pushed a notification straight to me. I moved my paycheck deposit to the separate account I never mentioned. I added a password to the family cloud and moved the backups. It wasn't punishment. It was order. She came home at 10 with a loud story about someone else's drama. Her laugh was 2 shades lighter than necessary. The elm leaf pendant swung as she talked. She watched to see if I would ask. I let the silence sit. She trailed off and found her phone again. She knew I noticed. On Saturday, I mowed the lawn while she caught up with old faces. On her screen, a photo flashed and disappeared when she saw me glance. She locked the phone and placed it under a magazine like we were teenagers hiding contraband. I took a shower and dried off slowly. She checked the door twice to see if I would follow her to the living room. I didn't. In the evening, I scrolled once more. The photo from Tuesday had grown likes. Someone had tagged a location. The same cross street from the rideshare. Good. Patterns prefer to be seen. I made dinner for myself and left her portion on the stove. I ate at the counter and cleaned my plate the second I finished. She drifted by and lifted the lid. She looked at me, waiting for permission that wasn't required. I turned on the news and raised the volume by one small step. Later, she climbed into bed and lay with her back to me. The pendant clicked softly against her phone as she set an alarm. Tap, tap. The room held its breath like it was learning from me. I had a name now. The rest would organize itself. I started where names leave fingerprints. Phone logs. Bank activity. Small edits to routines that look harmless until you stack them. A jeweler called Elmside had a charge I didn't recognize. 2 weeks before the pendant appeared. Another on rideshares at hours that didn't match her calendar. Cash pulls from the joint account, round numbers. She'd always hated cash. I moved the balance from the shared checking to savings with automatic transfers I didn't announce. The lights stayed on. The temperature in the house fell by a degree. At breakfast she wore the elm leaf again. She tapped it against her mug while she scrolled. The chain flashed, then disappeared under her collar like it knew when to hide. I poured coffee, set her cup down, and didn't ask where she was headed that night. She waited for the question anyway. Silence is not weakness. It's a mirror. I took a walk and stopped by a friend's office. Old teammate, now a realtor. The kind of person who collects stories without trying. We stood by the window and watched traffic count itself. I asked how everyone was. Harmless. He shifted once, then twice. Names surfaced with thin details. He said he ran into her last week, with a group. He hesitated at the edge of the next sentence, and let it drop. The shape of the thing didn't need words. He knew I noticed. Mark? I said like I was testing a pen. He gave a careful non-answer that confirmed enough. From before me, he added, then pretended it was weather. From before me was the piece I needed. I left without closing the loop. I didn't press him. People talk more when you don't chase. Back home I checked our photo frames. She'd rotated a picture out. In the bottom drawer, under a stack of holiday cards, I found the old one with his face blurred by a reflection I didn't remember. College hoodie. Same grin as the tagged photo I'd seen on her feed. Patterns prefer to be seen. The mail came late. A white envelope addressed to her maiden name. University crest on the corner. 10-year reunion. I turned it over. The flap wasn't sealed. They must have run out of glue. Dates circled in blue ink, not mine. A handwritten note at the bottom, looking forward to seeing everyone. No signature. It went to our address. She had not mentioned it. The invitation sat on the console like a calendar throwing a punch with velvet gloves. That night she mentioned drinks with the team. She over-explained the schedule. I nodded once and handed her the invitation without commentary. Her eyes flicked to the crest, then to me, then back to the sink. She said she didn't think about going. The cards slid under a stack of coupons as if paper could bury truth. I watched the corners show through. I let the silence sit. I checked the card statements again. A new hotel pre-authorization near the campus she hadn't attended since we met. 2 nights. Refund pending. Reservations can be cancelled. Intentions don't erase that easily. I created a new budget folder and moved discretionary spending to a card with my name only. The shared card stayed open for groceries and utilities. I didn't announce that either. She'd learn at the register. Boundaries aren't speeches. They're gates that lock softly. Her friends texted her in the living room. The laughter was too controlled, the pauses too careful. She angled the screen. I didn't lean. I watered the plant by the window and watched the reflection on the glass instead. The pendant moved when she laughed, small flicker then still. I noted the rhythm. I returned the can to its place. Before bed, I pulled a copy of our phone plan and printed a week's worth of call logs. Numbers repeated at inconsistent hours. A pattern of short calls, then long ones after midnight. I traced Mark to a city an hour away. Public profiles do more work than confessions. Same university. Same reunion committee. His feed had an old photo with my wife's maiden name tagged from a summer I didn't exist in. History is patient. It waits to be invited back. She came in late and set her bag near the door. Shoes off, then on again, as if she'd forgotten something essential. No greeting. I held the front page of the paper without reading a word. She hovered. I didn't fill the space. She went upstairs. The house exhaled in relief. I filed what I had into 3 folders: money, movement, names. No theories. Just dates and locations. I placed the reunion invitation on top and slid the stack into the safe with our passports and the deed. I added a small note in my handwriting. No flourish, just a date. I did not confront her. Not yet. Truth without witnesses is sport for the guilty. I'd settle for simpler leverage. Dates and doors. Locks and keys. The quiet kind. The next morning, she asked if I needed anything from the store. I said we were fine. She looked at the fridge and saw the clipped list that wasn't there. She hovered at the door again. The pendant was missing. She had tucked it into her pocket, chain peeking like a tail of a lie too tired to hide. She caught me noticing and looked away. I sent 2 emails. One to the reunion committee asking for a general schedule, since we might be attending. The other to our accountant moving her stipend to a separate savings account pending year-end adjustments. Both were polite. Both moved pieces. No anger in ink. Just geometry. The reply came back fast. Wine mixer Friday. Campus tour Saturday. Dinner at 7. Names of attendees published the week before. Good. Calendars don't mislead. People do. I circled Saturday on mine and closed it. I didn't need speeches. A date would be enough. Saturday sat on the calendar. I left it alone and moved before it. I asked 2 mutuals a simple question. Do you know Mark? One said no too fast. The other blinked, then gave a half story about old classmates reconnecting. I didn't correct him. I let the silence sit. He filled it with a location, a handle, don't make it worse. Noted. Mark kept a small profile, a faculty directory photo, a LinkedIn line about consulting. The reunion roster confirmed his RSVP. I didn't message him there. I called the main office number and asked for him by first name. The receptionist transferred me. He answered on the 3rd ring. Calm voice. Neutral greeting. I gave him mine and said we should talk for 10 minutes in a public place. He asked why. I said his name had been floating near my marriage. He went quiet, then offered the cafe off the main road. I agreed. No drama. Just a time. He was early. Good posture, careful eyes. He scanned me the way I scanned him. We both sat. I placed my phone face down. He did the same. I'm married to her, I said, and used her full name. No story. Just the fact. He went still. His fingers left his coffee. He didn't reach for the cup again. He said he thought she wasn't with anyone. He said she told him things were over. In all but paper. And she was suffocating here. He looked at the door, then at me. I didn't rush that space. People show themselves there. I asked him one question. Were you aware there are others who rely on her? He shook his head. The answer landed heavy without sound. Some truths don't need questions. They just end conversations. He pulled his phone and scrolled. I watched his eyes skim a thread. His thumb hovered over a photo. Her at the bar, the elm leaf pendant catching the light. He recognized it. I gave her that, he said low, as if spoken too loud would change its shape. He explained it was a campus thing, a joke from back then, a leaf from the old quad turned gift, not romantic in words. Signal enough. The pendant had a sender. He asked what I wanted. I said I wanted clarity. For both of us. He nodded once. He didn't apologize. He didn't argue. That was better. We stayed like that, two men who weren't competing, just taking inventory of a mess someone else designed. I slid my phone over and opened the first message that mattered. I should have chosen better. I had saved it the day she sent it. I tapped forward and put in his number. He watched me do it. No flourish. Just delivery. He read it, face closed. He exhaled. She said that? He asked. I didn't answer. He already knew. He started to talk about what they'd planned for the reunion weekend. I lifted a hand. Don't. He stopped. We both looked at the door again. I paid for my coffee and left him with the bill anyway. Not spite. A line. He stayed seated when I stood. He knew I noticed. At the bank, I converted the joint card to individual responsibility and capped the limit on the one that stayed open for household charges. The manager did her process voice. I matched it. I asked for alerts on anything over 50. I reviewed the last 90 days again while she clicked. Ride shares at times she was. With friends. 2 boutique charges that mapped to the restaurant photo background from his feed. A hotel deposit masked as event services. Geometry, not suspicion. I moved the remaining liquid savings to a separate account and authorized transfers to cover the mortgage and the expenses for those who rely on us. No more discretionary drawdowns. The accountant sent back a neutral. Received. Good. Paper trails don't debate. At home, her shoes were by the door, tossed. The elm leaf pendant hung from the lamp switch like a taunt. I didn't touch it. I took a photo and tagged it by date. Evidence behaves. People don't. She texted that she'd be late, emoji and an excuse. I didn't answer. I sent the reunion schedule to my own email and printed it. I highlighted the dinner block. I printed the bank alerts page. I stapled the copies and slid them into a folder, each tab labeled. Facts line up when you let them. Mark texted twice that night. A short, I didn't know, and then, hours later, I ended it. I didn't reply. Not my job. He wasn't my problem. He was a cautionary note in a file I'd already closed on one side. I cooked for the smaller voices in the house and kept the table steady. Bills went into stacks. The house kept its rhythm. She came in at 11 and paused when she saw the folder on the counter. She looked for a fight that wasn't there. I moved the folder to the desk and locked it away. No show. No scene. Just order. Before bed, I wrote one line on a notepad and left it by the pendant's photo in my phone. Saturday, 7 p.m. Then I turned off the light and closed the door without sound. Quiet moves more than noise. She made her move first. I came home to an open suitcase on the bed, drawers half emptied, shoes lined like a plan. The elm leaf pendant sat on the dining table, catching a strip of light like it wanted my attention. She stood by the closet with a tissue and swollen eyes. I feel overwhelmed, she said. I need space and independence. I didn't answer. I put my keys in the bowl and hung my jacket. The house held its quiet. She filled the silence. I've tried. You don't listen. You don't trust me. I need space. I walked past her to the kitchen and set water to boil. Routine has weight. The kettle clicked against the burner. She waited for a scene that didn't come. My phone buzzed. A fraud alert flagged a pending charge at a boutique I'd never heard of. I declined with my thumb and opened the bank app. The joint card was already on a pause. The mortgage and utilities had new automatic transfers from a separate account I opened that morning. The needs of those who rely on us carved out, steady as rent. Her personal card showed 3 new rideshare trips and a midday hotel hold. I moved 2 more line items into the protected column and closed the screen. She watched me. What are you doing? Stabilizing the house, I said. So you're setting financial boundaries? No. I'm separating needs from noise. She laughed once, sharp and thin. You feel distant, she said. I didn't apply for the role. She started folding clothes with quick hands, trying to make it look decisive. A framed photo on the dresser faced the wall. The pendant stayed on the table like a dropped story. I took a folder from the desk and set it beside the pendant. Not a threat, a boundary. She glanced at it, then back at me, weighing the angles. This wasn't the script she practiced. You can't keep my things, she tried. Take what you own, I said. Leave the car. I need the car. The insurance is in my name. She waited for me to soften. I filled 2 mugs and slid one across the counter without looking at her. She didn't touch it. She moved to the door and came back, restless. You're not even going to ask why, she pushed. I have the answer I need. That landed. Her eyes went to the pendant. She reached for it, then left it where it lay. She knew I saw it on her neck in the photo. She knew I'd recognize it at the table. Some truths don't need questions. I carried the folder to my office. No creaking floorboards. I checked the notepad on the desk. Saturday, 7 p.m. I opened a draft address to Mark using the email he gave me when I met him for the first and last time. No demands. Just her line in the subject, exactly as she sent it to me, and the date stamp of when she wrote it. Below it, a single screenshot. Scheduled send for Saturday, 6:58 p.m. He'd have her words before I arrived. Let the timing do the work. Back in the hall, I took her spare key from the bowl and placed it under the small dish we kept for loose change. She noticed. Her chin lifted. Really? House keys belong to the house. She wiped her face with the tissue and made more noise in the closet. The performance needed an audience. I opened a window in the living room. Air moved. No speech required. Her phone buzzed twice on the bed, face down, a vibration that wanted to be heard. She didn't pick it up. I looked at the suitcase. Shoes on top, charger coiled, the green dress she didn't wear for me. The receipts in the side pocket peeked out, neat, expensive. I moved the receipts to the folder, slipped in a printed account summary behind them, and closed the clasp. She saw the motion. She didn't argue the numbers. You'll tell people I'm running from you, she said. I don't need to tell people anything. She hated that more than anger. The kettle clicked as it cooled. I rinsed the mugs, set them upside down. The family schedule went on the fridge. Pickups, dentist, library day. No gaps. No drama. I wrote one more line under the note on my desk. Car stays, cards paused. Saturday holds. She stepped into the hall with the suitcase tilted. I'm not the bad one here, she said, voice soft, eyes bright with accusation. I didn't say you were. She waited again. I opened the door for her and stepped aside. She didn't move. Control isn't volume. It's posture. I might come back for more things, she said. Text first. She rolled the suitcase past me, paused, and looked at the pendant. She left it where it was. The door closed with the easy click of a settled lock. I stood by the table a moment and turned the pendant over once with my finger, then let it lie. A push notification flashed on my screen. Joint card attempted at the same hotel. Declined. Household stable. She thought early tears would set the stage. I just dimmed the lights. She texted the next morning. Can I pick up the rest today? I said yes. Noon. 15 minutes. I set the table like a ledger. Bank statements on the left, screenshots in the middle. The reunion envelope. The elm leaf pendant sat on top, face up, like a name tag. She came right on time. Light steps. Red eyes dried carefully. She clocked the table, then me. I didn't move. You don't have to make this hard, she said. It's simple, I said. I slid the first page toward her. Joint card attempts. Hotel name highlighted. Declined after the freeze. She glanced at me, then down again. She tried to speak. I let the quiet hold. Bills next. Utilities secured. Mortgage moved to my account. Car insurance split. The numbers did the talking. She reached for the pen as if there'd be a form to sign. There wasn't. What is this? She asked. Order, I said. I pushed the screenshots forward. Timestamps. Pet names. Plans. The message you liked most. I should have chosen better. The one you sent at 2:14 a.m. from our couch. The tablet had chimed. You'd forgotten it backs up to the cloud. I didn't argue with history. Her jaw tightened. A hand went to her neck on instinct. No pendant. It flashed in her eyes when she saw it on the table. Privacy, she tried. You used the house, I said. I saw the smoke. She stared at the top image. A selfie with him outside the bar. The same night you told me you were with friends. The pendant in the frame, half turned. I didn't annotate. Nothing happened then, she said softly. I didn't correct her. I slid the next page. His name. Mark. The emails. Your note about the reunion. The lines you sent him after. He doesn't see me. He's safe, not exciting. I kept my finger on the margins. I didn't touch the words. I told him, I said. She blinked. Told who what? I sent him your first message, I said. The one you sent me. I should have chosen better. I looked at her once. He read it in full. With context. Her mouth parted. For a second, The room paused around her. He didn't know about the marriage, I said. He does now. He understands the timeline. He won't be misled again. You had no right, she said. The volume rose, then fell when it met the wall of my stair. She shifted, then folded her arms. You're trying to create distance for accountability. I'm concluding, I said. She tried another route. You never asked me how I was. You never. I lifted a hand a fraction. Not to stop her. To let the air carry the rest away. Some truths don't need questions. I lined up the last items. The custody schedule proposal. Days, pickups, routines. Teacher contacts already notified. My lawyer's card clipped to it. I set the pen down now. She didn't take it. I'm not signing this today, she said. Not today, I said. But soon. She looked past me, scanning for sympathy like a misplaced key. There wasn't any. Only the clock and the mild hum of the fridge. You made me feel trapped, she whispered. I didn't defend myself. I turned the pendant once, then let it fall flat. Return this to whoever's missing it, I said. Or don't. Her chin twitched. It's mine. Then own it, I said. She put a hand on the chair and didn't sit. Tears gathered, then thought better of it. Calculation creased, then smoothed. She reached for the screenshots. I kept my hand where it was. She drew back. What are you going to tell people? She asked. The truth, I said. Nothing else. I can explain. You already did, I said, tapping the pages. To him. To me. She took a step back. The suitcase wheels remained still. She looked at the door, then at the pendant again. The hotel charge was for a friend, she said, picking one thin defense from the heap. It was for a room, I said. Twice. Last week and yesterday. Both declined. Consider your access closed. Essentials are covered. Discretionary is yours to manage. Her shoulders fell by a centimeter. She understood the math. You feel distant, she said. I'm clear, I said. She watched me for a beat. She knew I noticed. I didn't want it to end like this, she said very carefully, as if wording could move walls. It's already ended, I said. We're just organizing the paperwork. A car door outside. A neighbor's laugh. Life continuing like traffic at a light. She reached for the pendant, then stopped. She left it. She picked up the reunion envelope instead, slid it into her bag as if that changed the past. I'll be in touch, she said. Through counsel, I said. She nodded once. The kind of nod people give when they finally meet a line they can't move. I held the door. She walked out without looking back. On the table, the pages stayed flat, the numbers steady, the pendant still. I turned off the light over the dining room and left the rest in the dark. Silence did the rest. She left on a Thursday. By 9, counsel had the file. At 9:15, I forwarded one message to Mark. Her line. I should have chosen better. No context. No caption. He read it within a minute and went quiet. An hour later. I didn't know. I didn't correct him. I archived the thread and moved on. Service went out the next day. She tried calling from a blocked number. I let it ring out. A text followed asking for clarity. I replied with 2 words. Through counsel. She sent 3 paragraphs. I didn't open them. Silence does what debate can't. Our friends adjusted faster than she expected. Tags disappeared. Photos went private. The group chat split in 2. A few reached out to me on the side, measuring tone. I kept it short. We're fine. They got the message. People like stability. They drift toward it when storms pass through. The house settled into a different rhythm. Breakfast by 6:40. Backpack checks by the door. I did drop-offs and pickups without commentary. Permission slips returned. Laundry folded on time. Answers stayed simple. Mom's staying somewhere else for now. They processed it at their speed. I let them. The numbers became clean. I froze the joint card by noon and closed the line by Monday. The subscription trail told a simple story. Ride shares to neighborhoods that had never mattered to us. Hotel deposits labeled as conference. Gift shop receipts with dates that matched. Girls' nights. I didn't flinch. I flagged what counsel needed and stopped the rest. The autopays shifted to my name. Paychecks to a new account. Emergency fund out of reach. Stability has a sound. It's the absence of overdraft alerts. She asked for a little help after the card closures. The message tried to braid guilt with logistics. I sent her the temporary order. Support amount. Due date. Method. Nothing else. She pushed again on a Sunday night. I didn't respond. Monday morning, a third message. I'm drowning. I replied at noon with a PDF of the schedule we'd both signed. People hear boundaries better than speeches. Mark sent one more message midweek. She misled me. I left it unanswered. He took himself out of the picture with a quiet unfollow and a locked account. She noticed. The captions shifted tone from light to brittle. Comments fell away. Options shrink when attention cools. The elm leaf pendant sat in a dish by the door for a week. I bagged it, labeled it with the case number, and sent it with a property list. No note. Counsel would handle the rest. Objects carry stories only if you keep handing them ink. Temporary custody became routine on paper and reality in the kitchen. Midweek exchange at the station. Saturday visitations supervised at a center that smelled like hand sanitizer and stale coffee. She arrived late twice. The logbook didn't judge, it recorded. She tried to tell the attendant that I was controlling. He pointed to the sign in time with a pen and handed her a form. That's what system looks like. Boring. Durable. Money tightened on her end. A mutual friend hinted at a move from a loft with high ceilings to a studio with a window onto an alley. She posted photos of takeout boxes and wrote long captions about new chapters. I didn't read to the end. Counsel sent over a spreadsheet of missed payments on her side. I signed where asked and returned to the grocery list. The hearing came fast once the calendar opened. I wore a simple suit and a quiet tie. She arrived holding a folder too thick to be practical. She tried to meet my eyes in the hallway. I looked past her to the clock. When the judge asked about the children's routines, I produced a schedule with bus stops, medication times, teacher names. When asked about the home, I offered utility bills and a repair receipt with my signature. No speeches. Facts hold. The order named me primary. It wasn't a victory lap. It was a page with a stamp. She asked the judge for reconsideration. He asked for grounds. She stared at the table. The gavel tapped, not for drama, just for closure. On the way out, she whispered, "You won." I didn't answer. Winning doesn't need applause. It needs discipline. I shook counsel's hand and walked to the parking lot. The sun was out. The air didn't change. At home, I adjusted 2 chairs at the dining table and left the third pushed a little back. Not erased, just honest. The reunion envelope, long expired, went into recycling. The bills were already paid for the month. The budget balanced without surprises. I set my phone face down. The house held. A padded mailer arrived 2 days later. Return address unknown. Inside, the elm leaf pendant in a smaller bag, no note. I took it to the trash, paused, and slid it into the donation box instead. Someone can find a use for what we finished. It doesn't have one here. That night, I sent one last message to Mark. The same line as before, forwarded back to the top. No expectation. He didn't reply. Good. Some threads don't need knots. The family's early bedtime crowd was asleep by 8:30. I sat in the quiet and let it work, not avoid. A boundary. The door stayed closed. That was the choice. And it held.